A taxi driver was finishing his final ride of the night when a woman stepped into the back seat. She quietly handed him an address, then sat completely still. And during the entire drive, she never said a single word. But when he finally reached the destination, the passenger had vanished. The doors were still locked, and the back seat was completely empty. It happened just after 2 a.m. during a freezing October night in Chicago. 38-year-old Daniel Mercer had worked as a taxi driver for nearly 12 years, long enough to recognize when something felt wrong. And from the moment he saw the woman, something felt deeply unsettling. The city streets were almost empty that night. No traffic, no pedestrians, just thick fog rolling through silent streets. Daniel was preparing to end his shift when he noticed her standing alone beneath a flickering streetlight. She wore a long gray coat. Her dark hair hung over part of her face. Her skin looked pale, almost lifeless, and despite the freezing cold, she wasn't wearing shoes. As she entered the cab, Daniel immediately felt the temperature drop. The air inside the taxi suddenly felt freezing, much colder than before. Without speaking, the woman handed him a small, folded piece of paper. Written on it was an address on the far side of the city. Then she leaned back into the shadows and remained perfectly silent. At first, Daniel tried making conversation. No response. He asked if she needed help. Still nothing. She simply stared out the window, without moving, without blinking. As the taxi drove deeper into the city, Daniel began noticing strange things. Every time he looked into the rearview mirror, the woman seemed closer. Not moving, just closer. And at one point, he froze completely, because for a brief second, her reflection disappeared entirely. That's when Daniel decided to finish the ride as quickly as possible. He turned onto the final street, a narrow road lined with abandoned homes. No lights, no people, only silence. Finally, the taxi stopped in front of an old, crumbling house. The woman still hadn't spoken once. Daniel nervously glanced into the mirror again. Then his heart stopped. The back seat was empty. Daniel immediately turned around. Nothing. No passenger. No open door. No sound. The locks were still engaged. Nobody could have left the vehicle. Shaken, Daniel stepped out of the taxi and stared at the house. The building looked abandoned for years. Broken windows, collapsed porch, and hanging beside the front door was an old newspaper clipping. According to the article, a young woman had died there decades earlier. She had been struck by a car during a snowstorm. Witnesses said she was trying to get home barefoot. The next day, Daniel showed police the piece of paper she had given him. But investigators discovered something terrifying. The handwriting on the note perfectly matched the dead woman's signature from old records. Some believe Daniel picked up a ghost. Others think exhaustion caused him to hallucinate. But Daniel still insists the woman was real. Because moments before she disappeared, he heard her whisper from the darkness behind him. "Thank you for taking me home." And maybe the most disturbing part of all? When police inspected the taxi the next morning, they found wet footprints across the back seat. Bare footprints, still damp from melted snow. So what really happened that night? Did Daniel encounter a lost spirit searching for home? A hallucination? Or someone who was never supposed to exist at all. Because sometimes, the last passenger never truly leaves the car. Subscribe for more disturbing mysteries that blur the line between reality and the unexplained.